I'm just gonna do a little clap to sync my microphone really quick because I'm gonna use this for later production. Oh, that doesn't work because you can't see my hands on the video. Okay, I'm gonna do this, but anyway, try it right here. It's kind of a weird sensation, but anyway, welcome if you're joining the live stream. You're just audience to filming the work on this piano here, and I went and got a couple tools that I needed. The main tool was this one here. This is a capstan wrench for these old style Steinway capstans, okay? It'll fit around those square capstans. You know, I was giving some thought to why this piano hasn't sold since the rebuild. One of the things was we got it tailored specifically to someone else's what they wanted. And anyway, look, the soundboard has been repaired in the past. And you see where there's all these shims that were running where there were cracks, okay? And I didn't do that work, but the previous rebuilder did that work. And you can see why that might turn somebody off, all those lines in the soundboard, given, you know, combined with the piano's age being 1901 and knowing it was rebuilt, you might be a little concerned. You know, as I look at that, the dark lines, though, the lines that you see now on the piano, those are not actual cracks, okay? It's been refinished masterfully by my friend, and it looks like there's a crack there, but no, that's covered, that's been sealed and glued together, and there's a shim there, and then the board's been refinished, okay? So I think the board is well protected and will do a good job, you know, as much as you could expect an older piano to do. Going forward, I don't think anyone would run into any big issues, but I think that may be a deterrent for why this piano hasn't sold in the past. And my job, I've just been hired to get it as functioning as well as possible for this potential buyer so that they'll like it and they'll continue with the purchase. They've already expressed interest. They've seen it remotely, they've heard a recording remotely, but I want the experience when they touch the thing to be good. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get the camera in a little closer so we can get some close-up shots of some stuff. Okay, so we made the key dip a little more shallow, and you can kind of actually tell that compared to the neighbors, right? Definitely, this one's higher, right? Doesn't go down as far. That's what I've just tested to change. That's what I would like to change, because that's what put me off about the piano when I tried it out at first. The thing that put me off about it was that it felt a little too deep and laborious to play, okay? And someone who doesn't know that that's just a simple adjustment, they can't know that, oh, we can just regulate it and fix it. I need to get it ready before they try it out, right? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna change where this hammer starts. We're gonna raise it, okay, by turning this screw under here. And I'm gonna try and film it awkwardly the same time as doing it, okay? So here we go. I'm gonna raise that up until I feel enough squish room at the end of the keystroke where the mechanism feels like the mechanism has, let me show you the hammer here. So as I push up to the string, I want it to release, and I want it to feel like there's plenty of, I can push down the key just a little further than that, and that it clears, that it freely goes through its escapement, okay? So I've got it at that point, and you can see how much higher it is right now than where it was, all right? And the measurement's of no consequence. It's more an issue of just the interplay between the key and the, I'm going to zoom out here, the key and the hammer, okay? So it feels more snappy, but now I can't repeat very well, but that's probably a different issue, okay? So my next goal is I want that escapement to happen as close to the string as possible, okay? So I'm going to turn these these eye screws up here. I'm going to turn this button up, which will make this part trip because it trips against this button. It's going to make it happen later as the hammer's traveling up. It's going to happen just a little bit later and closer to the string, okay? So that's what I'm going to do right now. Let me grab my tool for that. You need a lot of tools to regulate a piano typically, you know? So there's no way around that. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got? This one's a ratcheting version. If I want to go, you know, really far up or down, which I don't need, but I'm gonna put it out just in case. And then I have a oh, come now. Here's a good one. This is a good one. This will fit around the top of that eye screw in several different positions and allow me to turn it upward. Okay, so we're gonna do that on this middle C that we're testing until I can just softly push it and hear the note strike, maybe even a little further. Okay, let's see here. Oh, no worries. Good, just filming out here while working. So. No, you're fine. You can interrupt all you want. How's it going?
Good, how about you?
You look nice.
Yeah, I thought I'd dress up and come over.
Nice.
If you want more work, I can try helping you.
You want more work?
You might want more work. Yeah. That would do it, huh? Yeah. So.
Yeah, so I guess kind of how this came to be, he said that they were looking at maybe doing a Yamaha,
Uh-oh. Throw that out for you.
and he told me like, it's around 41, they're gonna include this and that. And he's like, I was looking at your website, and I was like, well, we've got this Steinway for like 45. He's like, would you budge on the price and all? I'm like, I don't know, I can ask. So Colin's like, yeah, we can on the price a little bit, you know. Be nice
Is that the
to.
rebuilt one?
So,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
1901.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Isn't that cool?
So,
Yeah, and I think you rebuilt it in 20.
I mean, I did some things. Someone else rebuilt it,
Oh.
and they've done all these stripes in the soundboard. So it's the original soundboard with repairs.
Oh wow.
And that's why you see all these lines. I think that's a deterrent to people because when you look at it, right, you see all these shims that are of darker color
Okay, I did wonder about
and
that.
splits on the side. But Christoph re-glued, refinished its sound. You know, it's good.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
you
good
can see
sound.
why that might be a little off-putting.
Yeah, sure.
And then we did the new action parts as a second round of rebuild. I did a new pin block and restrung it.
Oh, that's what you did.
So the
Okay,
strings
pin
are
block
new
is-
and the pin block's great and then after that there was a guy interested in it and we put on new action parts as a second stage
I see.
and then he like went cold on it. Yeah. So it's been kind of sitting, but I can see why people might be like, oh, I don't know, but
Yeah.
but when I played it, it sounded pretty good.
Yeah.
I just feel like it felt a little deep.
That's what they do with
That's
violins.
what I was thinking. It does feel a little
It
different.
felt a little like weird to play.
Yeah.
So I'm just addressing that with the regulation, and I
Oh,
think
cool.
it'll be good. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's
So.
awesome. Yeah, Kerwin's like, just have Hiram go through it and see, if we can see how what you would recommend.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
that's great.
I mean,
Okay.
when I played it, I was like, well, this is pretty good. It was sounding pretty good.
Yeah.
For what it is, and so I
For
was like,
sure.
well, maybe it's just felt like these were going down a little deep. It felt a little weird. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Awesome.
so we'll work on
I
that.
love it. Okay, well that would be good for me to be able to tell the guy too that. So you've done the pen block.
Yeah, and the soundboard,
action
this
parts.
this is and it's been addressed after it was rebuilt at one point.
Okay.
A piano that age, you'd expect it to have
Oh,
a
yeah,
couple
have a
phases
couple.
of rebuilding, right?
Sure.
I think by now.
Yeah.
But it's been in our, it's been in our climate, which is so dry. It's been addressed.
Mhm.
So going to a wetter climate or the same should be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be Montana, so
Yeah.
probably not this one with you.
With violins, they put that purfling around it,
Oh.
prevents it from splitting.
Oh,
But I don't know if that's what they did
do they
it here.
that's
On
interesting.
violins on the edge of it, they'll do that same,
They do an inlay.
they'll do an inlay purfling. It's to prevent it from cracking.
Oh.
But
I
I
didn't
don't,
know
I don't
any
know
of
if
it.
it
So
works. with
here, there was a
soundboards, but-
crack there, so they routed out a V groove and
And
then
then
glued in a shim of new material and
But
then
the new
cracked on the
materials are
sides of the
different.
new material, and it always does
Right, yeah.
when you do that repair.
They're
Yeah.
You've
down.
got to glue it up. That really, the glue, the epoxy is a better repair in the end. So that's what's been, you know, that was addressed
That's
after
what happened.
Christoph went through it that
Okay.
way.
Okay.
Yeah. He just didn't visually like paint over that. Now, if he's doing it, if we have stuff like this in my shop, I'll have him make it cosmetically look
Yes.
more
Similar
blended.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, you're like, so people aren't like, what is happening with this?
right.
Yeah.
Oh, the tree grew.
I know.
Yeah.
People love just the look of it, because like you know how the music rack is so
Oh, yeah.
beautiful, so,
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great,
people
great
love that.
finishing on it, so.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I'll just do a bit of regulation and
Okay.
just go,
Oh, that
and,
should be
and I
great.
think it should be good. I mean, it was even pretty good tuning. I imagine Taylor's gone through it, and
I think over time,
Yeah.
it's,
so,
that'd be great. Yeah, in fact, I think Sam happened to be here the day they wanted a video of how it sounded, and it was, I mean, it's been in here and not touched up for a while, so Tim was here, so Carl was like, well, hurry, just have Tim touch it up, so you could do the video,
Yeah.
so,
yeah, did a good job.
so that's awesome, that's good to hear,
Yeah. So,
So, yeah, then they heard it, they're like, oh, yeah. But I was like, you can't really compare it to like a new Steinway
No.
as far as how it feels, but I think for like you say, I mean, it's older and it's been well done, you know.
but I think I'll get it feeling pretty good.
Feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, because I did notice that it does feel deeper than,
Yeah.
that's a great description. I was like, I don't know what it is about, but that's what it is.
Yeah. So just a little more work playing, which doesn't feel comfortable. So.
Okay, I
Yep.
love that. That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have a good one.
All right, thank you. And we're probably gonna head out, I think around 3:30 we'll be done. So.
I'll lock up because I'll be 4 o'clock.
It'll be 4.
Yeah. Or
Just lock up here.
Yeah.
We'll lock the door there, but if you wanna set the alarm, or do you want Kerwin to do it from his phone?
I can do it.
Okay, great. Awesome, thank
Yeah.
you.
You bet.
Well, let me turn on the light really quick.
Okay. Now I want to.
It's not on yet.
There it goes.
I want to minimize the drop if I can on this. Let's see if that screw can go in there. Okay, it can. That works still. We gotta position the action again. So I can repeat a little bit better, but still not great. It's getting caught. So I'm gonna increase the strength of what's called the repetition spring a little bit. And I need yet another tool for that. Another tool here, so now I can look and see kind of how this spring is behaving, and the hammer comes up a little bit slowly. So I have room to take a spring in here and bend it in a way that will strengthen it. That's a normal adjustment here that we do on these. Now that's too strong the way it rebounds like that. It's pushing on my finger and I can feel it on the key. Okay, let's see here. Alright, I still want it a little stronger actually. So, a little stronger yet. So I have some limits here of how I can set it. Let's see, I'm gonna move this up a little bit. Yeah, there's lots of room for this spring to be stronger. Now that's plenty strong, overly so. Let's see if I can just tone that down just a tiny bit. Normally this adjustment works a little smoother. The age of this action, I think, has affected things a little differently than would otherwise be the case. Okay, just weaken it a tiny bit. Still just a little bit. I'm going really carefully by degrees here, because I don't want to overdo it again, because I finally got it strong enough. And then it's too weak. Okay. So I've got a little bit of an issue with the shape of this spring, as far as getting it where I want it. Okay, I think maybe there. Let's see what that does in the piano. It's a little definitely strong, overly strong right now. But let's see how it behaves in the piano, because I was having a hard time getting it right where I want to. It's behaving a little atypically. But we'll see what happens. So I discovered another problem, which is with the dampers that will need to be regulated. Okay, so look at this part above this part above, this wedge above the damper. Look when it lifts in terms of the hammer. It lifts right before the hammer hits the string. That is just too late. You have some leeway to affect the touch. You don't want it lifting right away, way down here. You know, usually the standard is about when the hammer's halfway, but I like maybe a little later, honestly, because it makes the touch really nice. But this is just too late, too late, okay? And so it's choking the sound. Those felt wedges aren't totally clearing the string. So the tone might be a little bit better. We get those wedges away. But anyway, I'll address that later. But back to focus on what we're doing, which is just regulating the key and hammer action here. So that's pretty good with what I got. Now let's see if I can repeat any better here. Yeah. Now it's not skipping, unless it's my finger. It's not. Whatever my finger wants to do, it's doing. So I'm just using this middle C as a test, you know, tweaking things to see, okay, what am I going to need to do to this whole piano, right? And that's a good, just organized workflow for tackling like a regulation on the piano. Before the spring means the spring is too weak for the current setup, and the hammer gets caught sometimes, so it won't repeat. Well, it does when I do it that way, but you know, we don't always have the luxury of repeating a note that way with two hands. Okay, so I think I know where I'm going to go with this piano, okay? Step one, we're going to decrease how far the keys travel down. Now, then we need to, of necessity, raise the starting point of the hammers, or what we call the blow distance. Decrease the blow distance, okay? Because the hammer's up higher, the hammer distance, blow distance is the distance between the hammer and the string at rest. So we're going to decrease that distance. Then we're also going to decrease the let off, which is how far the hammer goes up to the string that point where it escapes and doesn't block up against the string, we're going to raise that as close as we can to the strings, basically, without being a problem. Okay, and of course we can have more detailed discussions about each one of these adjustments and the pros and cons of this, but this is what I'm doing in this case. Okay, and then what we need to do, that will address kind of the action. We need to strengthen the springs. In fact, I'm going to do that first, actually. Strengthen the springs. And then what we need to do is change the timing of the dampers so that they lift a little sooner as we're pushing down the key. Okay, so that they clear fully from the strings, and not too soon to create a heavier touch, but sooner than what we have here to not create like where it would choke the sound a little bit of the vibration of the string and interfere with it. And this needs to lift clearly away from the string. So that's actually a lot of work, you know, but we're going to tackle it, and we got to start somewhere. So I'm going to start by strengthening the springs. Okay. So we're going to use our Hart spring tool to adjust the springs. It's got a little groove in it. All right, and I can get in here and show you the rep spring, what we're talking about, if you don't know. So the rep spring is a butterfly shaped, butterfly meaning it has two parts to it. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get in there somewhere. Okay, so a lower part right there. That wire, it's this black line that I'm talking about. Okay, that's the lower part of it, and then this upper part, this, we see it more brass colored, its true color underneath here, supporting this beam. Okay, so the repetition spring hooks into what we call the jack, which is this part right here. Okay, so that it pops, so that it plays the note. The note goes up, and then it gets out of the way and stops lifting the hammer to the strings so that it can clear away from the strings, but then it needs to reset. So that spring strength resets it. It pushes it back to this position. Okay? So, and the upper portion simultaneously pushes up on this part, up against the hammer, so that what you get is an opposing force that clears, that lifts the hammer away so that this jack can return back underneath here, which we call the knuckle, and lift it. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with, and we're strengthening that spring. Now, I'm bending the upper portion of it to do that. Okay? So I'm going to work by sections. This is, you know, if it's good enough, I'm not going to change it. But I'm going to push this a little bit hot on the spring strength, knowing what I found out from the sample, that in order to repeat well, because we're having to go so high off these rest cushions here, we need to have a strong spring to support that there. All right? And so I'm going to go pretty strong, all right? A little stronger than I might on another piano. And some of these might be already okay. We'll see. So I pull the upper portion of the spring out, and I'm basically bending it in the shape of the butterfly a little bit more so that it bends outward, so it's a little stronger when it's compressed. Okay, so it'll push up a little harder on that hammer. And that's manifest by how quickly the hammer bounces after it gets caught by this check in the back, this leather catch. Okay, here we go. Strength operation, strengthen the springs, right? We don't want to take all day about it. We got 88 springs to do and several other adjustments that are not easy ones. Okay, so we're going to do it, and you know, there may be some that in the end we say, oh, you know, that's a little strong. It's, you know, that's fine. We can touch it up. But we're going to just quickly set these a little stronger. Rebound a little bit with a little more force. So the procedure is I play the key, let the hammer go zoop and fall and get caught by this back check, the catch in the back, and then I release the key very, very, very slowly, and the spring will pop the hammer up once it releases free from this leather in the back, okay? And that rebound is how I gauge how strong to set the spring. All right. Yeah, that one's a little bit tough there. Go a little stronger on that one. I feel a little something in there. Right, continue on. Now, yes, I need to set all the springs. I kind of like to do a section and then I might scoot over and do another section or two where I'm in a comfortable seated position to access it. You know, I don't want this thing going doing and bouncing too much, but I do want it to be very, very commandingly strong as it assertively, you know, goes up to clear out of the way quickly. This will help the mechanism reset faster. But it needs to do it in a predictable, consistent way for the pianist to be able to control it well. Okay, there's the one that we set before, and that's really strong. So we're good. We're good. We're kind of doing them all the same. See, this is look how this returns. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it does it, but it's not on the stronger side. We want like more like this, so that on a fast release, it surely goes up and gets out of the way. How quickly you release the key to observe this will change how it looks. So you have to push it in a consistent way, you know, to get the result you want. Now down here where I'm getting, the section where I'm getting now is very prone, if the springs are too strong, to the hammer double striking the string. But you know what? From my experience, you gotta favor the risk of double striking in favor of a really fast responsive action, I think. And you just gotta learn how to play on it in such a way that it'll work out. Now, yeah, there's way too strong, you know, way too strong where it'll double strike every time, or, you know, obviously we can mitigate against that. But we're gonna make a Ferrari out of this thing, okay? The reason is, I don't want anyone to try and repeat and the hammer get caught like it was before and say, this actually doesn't work. There's something wrong with it. I don't want anyone to say there's something wrong with it. I want it to show that it can work. There's a couple other things we could do, you know, to help it, the hammers not get caught like they were. Well, there's one other thing. We could put a cushion underneath and just build that cushion up. But I don't think that's necessary if we do what we're doing here. Okay, that one's plenty strong already. That one's weak, so we have some inconsistencies. And you get that, because you know, as the parts are worked in, played in, some parts get played more than others. You know, you have inconsistencies that creep up in the way the wood swells and things like that with humidity. So if someone's watching me, they're like, oh, he's totally doing that wrong. Those springs are way too strong. But trust me, in this case, we need it this way. You're like, no, I'm not going to trust you. I don't even know who you are. You're just on YouTube. Yeah, and that's fine. But maybe we'll have time later to have deeper discussions about this. And you'll appreciate, you know, okay, where I'm coming from on it. Like I said, this area right here, this low tenor is the most prone to double striking because the hammers are very massive and the spring needs to be somewhat strong, but it's easy for them to double strike the string when that happens. So kind of just a balancing game of, you know, walking a thin line sometimes. Alrighty. Again, what I like to do for a concert instrument that has the potential of being played, really highly technical things, repeating notes, etc., fast notes, I like to release quickly and make sure that the hammer goes up a little bit or is at least supported for a moment before it falls. And it's kind of a feel thing too. All right, now I'm going to back up and do the treble. Same thing what I did. Mm-hmm. Some are already strong enough. Some need a little help. Okay, let's see here. Let's give you a different angle, eh? Just a little bit different angle on things, and I think you'll be able to see still fine. So I'm not readjusting all of these. Some of them are fine. I like to have 2 hammers up, and then to access the one, to keep from breaking parts as I'm moving my hands quickly around here in the tool. It seems to work well. 2 hammers up, and then work on the one next to them. I can reach in there, pull that spring out, get it up. Here, I'll take a close up if you haven't seen the spring. Once I finish this section, I'll show you up close what it looks like when I pull it out. If you're not familiar with that, then you'll be more familiar with that. If you need to make these adjustments, you will be able to do it confidently with a little bit of practice. And it's kind of a back and forth. I'll bend the spring, and then I'll say, oh, now that's too strong, and then I'll try and weaken it, and you might say, oh, now it's too weak again, oh, too strong, and go back and forth a little bit. So you just kind of get mastery over these springs that you're working on, and say, okay, now I'm kind of getting a feel for them, how to manipulate them without overcorrecting it. But even then, I mean, you're going to go back and forth a little bit, kind of like tuning. You're just narrowing it in. Okay. Sometimes even just pulling it out lets it, strengthens it a little bit. Okay, so I was going to show you up close here on one of these when I pull out the spring. Okay, so here's the spring. I'm going to pull it out. Oop. Now here, see if we can get that. There's our spring. And this tool grabs that loop right there, right? So you see where that attaches down here, and then it comes out the bottom. So I can pull it up like this, and then tuck it back under. So I'm going to get on top of the wire, push it under and into the groove, and I'm going to click it to make sure it's in its groove, and then I'll check the hammer, doop, 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 how it rebounds, and that's too weak for me. Okay, so I'm going to strengthen it again. Let's see if I can do that with one hand, because I'm holding the camera. Okay, now that pops up. I pulled it up a little tighter, and now it rebounds really quickly, which is what I want for that area. You know, maybe a little overkill, but I mean, give me a break. I was holding the camera with one hand. Okay, so I'm gonna tone that down just a bit. Now we moved on. Let's see, we've done it just about all. We'll check this section. This one I want a little stronger. So mostly in the middle where my problem was, where they were set a little weaker. Okay. You know, I've learned something. I used to think that setting the let off or the escapement really close to the string was safer for the mechanism to work and not double strike. Or, you know, but what I've learned is actually it's not. It works a little better if it's really close to the string, that escapement, and everything else is just adjusted the way it should be. Now it works a little better actually, as long as the spring strength is good and it goes into check. But I mean, if you're just getting into this, you don't have to worry about those nuances. You know, until you get to a point where you need that. This one goes a little slower. All this started because we wanted to make this action a little bit, the keys not go down so deep. But you know, if one thing affects another, and you get into it, you realize, oh, these other things could be addressed, and it'll make it better too. Now, I put these parts in. Did I do it wrong? I don't know. Maybe I did it with, you know, regulated in a slightly different style. That now, knowing what I know now, years later, I would change a little bit. You know. Also, the parts change. It's not like they stay the way they were regulated from the beginning. You know. It goes out of regulation a bit. So I couldn't tell you for sure how it was regulated originally. But I do know I'm judging the piano now, and I want to make these adjustments to have it be its best self. Okay. All right. All that remains is the springs on the base. Can you believe we adjusted that many springs so quickly? Wow. Okay. Strengthen this up just a touch. It's definitely possible to overdo it, you know. And if you get a hammer that's going boing up against the strings when we try and play, then when everything else is adjusted, then we know, okay, we got to tone that spring down a little bit. We can't have it that strong that quick. I think adjusting repetition springs is the first thing that I kind of was introduced to randomly when I started getting into piano tuning, and someone was doing this and they were explaining to me what they were doing, and I had no clue what he was talking about. And if that's you, don't worry. You know, there's time. You can get into things more. Alrighty. Like I said, a lot of back and forth with this adjustment. Too strong, too weak, too strong, too weak. Just right. Oop. Okay. And you want them consistent for sure. You want them the same from spring to spring. That's the other trick. Okay? They need to rebound in a very, very similar way, because you feel that spring pushing against the key, pushing up on it when you release the key. You definitely need a consistent feel for a good touch. No way around the fact that this kind of work takes time. Last one here. For me, more than watching how it behaves when I release the key, it's more about how it feels against my finger as I'm releasing, and that it's supporting and resetting quickly, okay? That's how I set it. All right, these are really quick, which we do. Now, another adjustment while I'm here is just to check, well, before I talk, let me get my tool out. All right, I'm gonna check, I can change where the jack starts. Like I can change with an adjustment if the jack is further back or closer. So I need that in an optimal position so the pianist can control it. And so I'm gonna check that now before I change how high the hammers start. And sure enough, I can see why they were skipping out a little bit and getting caught. It's because they're too far towards the pianist, the jack is, which is the direction it escapes. So you lose just a little bit of traction and control of the hammer by having it there. So so far I'm making this adjustment so that that jack is underneath that, ready to lift the hammer, is a little bit further away from me. Okay? And again, we can go into a detailed discussion of how to set jacks later, but this is just an overall approach of what I'm doing, the stuff I'm doing to the piano to make it feel better. And make no mistake, these adjustments will make the piano feel much better. Less work to play, more control, more responsive, all that stuff. More comfortable. This adjustment has like I think they call it a spade screw. It's flattened on the end. And this tool just goes over that spade and you just turn the screw and it moves a button and that either pushes the jack this way or this way, depending on which way you turn the screw. It's easy enough if you have the right tool, and I'm putting my head down here so I can see where the jack ends up. Okay. So I make them all really super consistent and to make sure they're in the right position that I want. Again, tweak. Hey Timothy. That thing running still?
Mm-hmm.
I've got a microphone on too. I'm planning on editing this in the future to condense it to a shorter experience for people who want to watch it later. I'm not sure how the battery's doing on our camera though. We might want to check that.
Okay.
But
We are at 48%.
We can plug it in there. Probably.
Okay.
And so the goal here is, well, I think I told you the goal, right? That there's someone interested in this piano. The sellers want to make sure that it's best self, so that it'll present and hopefully sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just working through, and what I found was it sounded really good, a lot of good things about it, but the touch felt like the keys were a little too deep going down, so it was a little kind of just a lot of work moving up and down the scale. It didn't just snap out really easily. So I'm basically changing some regulation things on it.
Okay.
So right now I'm changing the jack position. So, but my overall goals, the things that are going to make the biggest difference reviewing are to decrease the dip a little bit, which is how far the key travels for anyone who doesn't know that. And then I have to, of necessity, then raise the hammer so that I have enough aftertouch after decreasing the dip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring let off up as close to the string as I can, because that'll feel good and help it repeat better. And but in order to do those things, I'm having to strengthen springs, align the jacks front to back, and then we'll be ready to raise the hammer line where I want it, and decrease the dip. And then there was one other problem, which is the dampers. And when I push the key, when they lift, they're lifting a little too late, so
Okay.
that the wedges might not clear completely from the strings and might be choking the sound a little bit. So I don't want anything to get in the way of that string vibrating and making just big sound. So all those things need to be done here.
Okay.
And it's kind of a big job. That's a lot of stuff. So we'll see how far we get here today. Well, we're getting there. So with this front to back adjustment, I'll relate to you too. This is the way I like to set it. Have you ever seen me do this?
I think one.
Okay, so I'll flip the hammer up and then I'll push the repetition lever down. And the jack, that shouldn't affect the jack position. You should see then, I can look right where the jack is under the knuckle. And what I want, the traditional way that people say to align this is the back side of the jack. Are you familiar with that? Should be in line with the back side of the wood core of the knuckle.
Mm-hmm.
That's the traditional way. What I do is I pull my eye line a little bit this way, so I'm looking this way across it. So when it looks like it's in line, it's actually, the jack is actually, if this is the knuckle, the jack is actually just a little bit further back, tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that provides a little more traction, and then it doesn't come out as far from the knuckle when it escapes. So the repetition is a little better, and you feel like you have a little more traction on the hammer and control. So that's my take on it. So these are all just a little too far towards the pianist for the most part. So I'm fixing that. Setting them the way I want. Some are fine. So it's really this kind of thing. Like you'll never see the angle unless we draw a picture or you're looking from this perspective, right? So kind of tricky, but and the movements, the amount of change is just really small, but no compared to or less. So. Let's see, I think I started from I usually just out of habit and I start from the middle of the keyboard and look to the left and do those, and then I'll go to the go the other way from the middle of the keyboard that way. Maybe I already did these, I don't remember. I must have already done them on this side. Maybe I started from here, I don't know, but I'm gonna just double check, doesn't take that long. That one. Quite right. You know, and it takes practice a little bit and everything to get, okay, I gotta get my, how do I get my tool through there? How do I get it on the screw? So that's just all with experience. You can practice, you can get it. So what I'm doing, you could take this as kind of a general procedure. If you're going to change where the hammer starts at rest, you want to make sure that these preliminary steps are in place, that the springs are the strength that you want, and that the jack is in the position that you want. And then there's one more other adjustment that's preliminary, which is that the, what we call the repetition lever on this part, you can change the height of that. So how much weight of this hammer is actually bearing down on the jack. Because this post here, these posts, the repetition lever they're called, they help support the weight of it. So you want kind of a shared responsibility supporting that weight. And what that does is then when the hammer, when you play the note and everything resets, you notice these hammers are floating here. They're floating on this part. They're not touching these cushions back here. So it makes sure that they return to that same position and that they're firmly supported in that same starting position. You know, it's true that if you're looking at the jack like this and setting it this way, if I looked on the left side and then I look on the right side, I might get two different views, readings, and say, oh, now it needs to go back. Don't overthink it. Just pick a side and set it, and it'll be close enough. Right. So again, where I'm making corrections, it's because the jack is too close, too much towards the pianist. So this alone will make the piano feel a lot better, just doing this little adjustment. Almost done. Okay, so just about wrapped up the jack front to back. That's a rhyme. Jack front to back, okay? Why does this matter? It changes control. Make sure that the key, it connects the key to lifting the hammer in a very secure way. It makes it lift it in the optimal place to lift it. All right. Just about one more. Okay. Happy with this, where we're headed. Good. Okay, now the other adjustment, I'm gonna grab that camera. Let's see, can we unclip it really quick? So I'll show you which screw I was changing there. And all right, so this guy, this red felt and this wood button and this screw are what I was screwing. So you screw that thing further out, and what does it do? It pushes the jack further towards the pianist. If you unscrew it, it allows the jack to go that away from the pianist. So that's what I was doing for the most part. And how does it line up with the knuckle? Let's take a look here. Okay, so typically we would have the backs, and when I say back, I mean the side away from the pianist, of the core, the wooden core of the knuckle here, this dark wood, that pretend that's a line that continues down. And traditionally that's going to be lined up with the back side of this jack. Now the camera perspective is a little bit hard. It looks like it was in line, but then I pulled this on, I was like, oh, the jack's a little bit further back. And the camera's exaggerating it, how much further back it is the way I'm holding it. So it's probably like kind of something like this is what I'm looking at. Just a little bit back from that core. Okay. So go ahead and stick that back. Oh, sorry, one more thing. And the other one was this regulating button back here, right there. That will raise or lower the back of this lever with a repetition lever. So it'll change the height of this, lower or higher. So you can see if it's too low, it doesn't support the weight of the hammer assembly, and only the jack does. If that was the case, this thing would not return to the same, the hammer would not return to the same height each time. You know, it might be lower, it might be higher. And so we need to set this height so that the jack can reset, the whole mechanism can reset well, and this repetition lever helps support the weight of the hammer. So that's what we're doing. But that adjustment I'm pretty sure is fine. So I don't think I need to monkey much with that. Because that doesn't usually get too out of adjustment. So now I'm going to determine how high I'm going to raise all the hammers, and I'm going to do it. So we're going to go back to our sample on middle C. Even just those adjustments with the spring and the jack, it feels way faster and responsive. But look, it can, if I stutter, I can get it to double strike the string. It follows your finger exactly. Skipping, other than my bad, unpracticed technique. But anyway, that one's still skipping, but I'll check that out. But it's much better. Put a measurement to where we set that hammer, and Tiffany, if you could, the more close-ups you can get, kind of looking where I am, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to raise this just a bit more. I'm looking through the strings at that hammer right there. I'm seeing where it starts. And see it's higher than the rest here, you know, and that gives me the appropriate timing. So I'm going to take a little measurement tool and put a number to that, and then I'll use the same gauge, the same distance for the whole piano. I'm going to guess 43, but it could be less. So I'm going to stick this gauge through the strings, turn it sideways, and I don't know if you can get through the strings. Oh, look, it's a little more than 43. It's actually 44, which is just great. Just great. I'm pleased as punch. Okay, so it's even a tiny bit more than 44, but we're going to go 44. Maybe we'll go 45. Let's see. That's probably too. 45 would be, if I go to the hammer next to it. Yeah, it's kind of a 45, but I'm going to go 44. Because that adjustment will settle a little bit as it's played. Okay. So I'm going to take my gauge here and set samples across the keyboard and then raise all the hammers up to that height. Okay. And it's a little bit trickier with these old parts because I have to use this capstan wrench. So 44 we decided. Down here. You know, something's actually wacky with this very bottom note. I don't know what it is, but it's actually floating a lot higher for some reason than the rest. I don't know if it was just set wrong or if a little something got in the action. I'm not sure. In this case, we'll have to keep our eye on that. Figure it out at some point. Okay, there we go. That's correct. All right, now I'm going to set the B's, E's, and the ends of the sections. And it does not matter one bit what you choose. You can choose whatever note you want. You just want a picture of the height of the string above the hammers, and then we're gonna raise the rest of them in between our samples. So I pinch the jig with the hammer next to the one I'm adjusting and hold it there, and then I'm gonna adjust the one to the left of it and raise it until it matches that height. Piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right, we're gonna get the damper out of the way though. That's why I'm pushing the pedal a little bit. Just because sometimes you could pinch the felt in between the string and you get a bad reading and probably, you know, might damage the felt or something. So I just get it out of the way by pushing the pedal before I stick the gauge in. All right, so, all right, there's our other sample. Bass section's done. We'll move to the tenor here. Raise that to 45 millimeters. Oh, we said 44. 44 millimeters from the string. Okay. And if someone thinks they know about regulation but may not be as experienced, they might say, hey, no, the spec is blah, blah, blah. It does not matter what the spec is. You got to make the piano work. You got to adjust it to where it feels right. The specs are really more like guidelines. Right? Okay. I'm going to raise this up. Okay, that's good. Now, if I were to play these notes with the hammers raised up, before we decrease how far the key goes down, it would feel all kinds of wrong. It would feel really weird. Well, I should say 9 out of 10 people it'll feel fine because they don't know the difference. But for the discerning pianist, it would be wrong. Okay. And we are working for the discerning pianist right now. See, I think that really was at kind of 45 more because my first sample, I'm going to raise a tiny bit higher, but that's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to give it a little more room to break in and settle and be just fine still. Okay, we're going to raise this. Now, the implications of raising that starting point of the hammer are that you lose out on a chance for more power from the piano, okay? But you speed up the action and the repetition of it. So there's a win and a loss there. And just knowing that principle will help you make decisions what you're going to do because you have some leeway. You know, if the piano, some pianos might sound better with a little more room to accelerate that hammer. And that's the difference. It's how much room you have to, how much time you have really to accelerate the hammer to the string. Okay, and the distance it travels is what's affected. So you can have more power or less power. You know, if you could swing a golf club with a full swing, you could get much more power behind the ball than if you only give it a quarter swing, n'est-ce pas? So same idea here. And it's the same with the key, right? So if the key doesn't go down as far, it's like having a 3/4 swing. But we're purposely giving this piano that. We're purposely doing that to this piano, knowing that there will be enough power and tone still, but we need speed. So a few more samples to go here. And these older capstans are very difficult to adjust when they're on the ends of the section. A lot of people will switch the older out for the new. When am I going to learn? I just left the old ones there, and so it creates just a little more hassle, but it's not so bad. You know, I got the right tool for them, so it helps. All right, let's see if we can get this adjusted all the way where we want it. There we did. Okay, we got high enough there. You'll be able to look through the top or something and see that. We're going to pull it out. When we pull the action out, we'll see those samples sticking up like sore thumbs. Now here's the thing to consider. So we say, well, why don't you just get a height of the hammer and just set it straight across the whole thing? It doesn't work that way. The string heights are not straight across. The soundboard is intentionally curved, with the middle being the highest point, and then you've got a bridge that spans that soundboard diagonally. So you're going to have a pattern of the actual height of these strings that's not going to be a straight line. So you need to take a certain amount of samples to get that same contour to have the same touch on the piano. No other way to do it. This piano, boy, I mean, it's got a tone for 1901. And as far as I can tell, original soundboard. Repaired and whatnot. And double repaired. I'm gonna go a little higher on this guy. It's too high. All right, I've got all the samples I'm gonna do here. Just about. I'm gonna grab, actually we have a thick cover on our piano next to us. We'll just lay it up, we'll set it here. On this surface over here. And we're gonna set the height of all the hammers. What time is it?
10 after 4.
Oh, it's getting late. Make a deal. We'll go as far as we can today, which isn't going to be much farther. Continue tomorrow, or Monday. Got the wrong tool. Okay, now we're going to turn this capstan screws up and just connect the dots and raise our hammers to the same height all the way across. And I kind of like to skip around a little bit. It helps me make those lines a little straighter between the samples by doing kind of every other one. And you have to give the key a little bit of a settling tap. You make a turn, remove the tool, give it a settling tap. If you don't remove the tool, it's going to put weight on the key and you're not going to be able to get an accurate adjustment because this is a real fine adjustment and we want it fine. This is more like a craftsmanship thing when you get to a certain level where you just want your hammer line to just be beautifully straight, you know, from one sample to the next. And you want it to be stable. All right, so if you give a tap and then you might need to, I need to turn it up a little more. And you just keep doing that. And with this adjustment, a small turn is required sometimes, like just a hint of a turn where you're not even sure you turned the screw. Okay, let me go here. There we go. You want to get your hands on this for a minute, Timothy? Try it. Or is this, or no, not so much.
Yeah, I can give it a shot.
All right, let's see it. You change of personnel here. Here we go. Boy, with that sunlight coming through, that's a beautiful shot. So you're just raising those up. You gotta give it just a tiny tap is all. You dunk, and then you see it settles down. You're like, oh, that wasn't as high as I thought it was, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got one more in that section. So we're just getting that hammer line just totally straight across. It's a beautiful thing to me. It's a beautiful thing. Is that a beautiful thing to you, Timothy?
Huh?
Alright, so we'll continue doing this. And we might tag team here in a second. Just give Timothy a few more turns on it.
Just do this next one.
Mm-hmm. So the secret is turn, slight tap to settle. Turn, slight tap to see where it settles until it's just perfect. You're not changing my sample, right?
Oh, maybe
Did you change the sample?
just a little bit.
Okay, yeah, no, that's the other key. Don't change your samples.
That's good, that's good.
Okay.
Alright.
Switcheroo.
Okay.
So good. Now, if I may, I'll maybe offer a little bit. So sometimes it's easy just to end up a little higher than what you intend, so you can just go through or lower. You know, it takes. I mean, how would you describe it? Just I'd say like you don't even know you're turning it, and it changes a little.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you'd say?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the sample down here.
Okay.
Need to be a little more like. Oh man. Okay. Let's change that. Okay. I'm just going to trim this in a little bit. What happens when we're adjusting a line usually is we start to get off one way or another. Either too high, too low, or kind of a diagonal line. And so that's why it's helpful to do. One way that I like to get around this is here's one sample, here's the other sample. I like to take the one in the middle and just kind of tap them, move them a little bit, all three, and just pretend like this is a straight line across and that's the midpoint. And then I can kind of, draws attention to itself and I can kind of raise it till it's a straight line between those three. And then I can see with this one, okay, I want to raise that a little more to get right in between there. And you know, oh, then maybe I'm not high enough, you know, that kind of a thing. So you can really trim it up. Really nice. And this is way more detailed than you may want to go into when you rate, but you know, that's what I do. So it must be weird, but you can be weird too. So now we're going to take this up here. All right. Nice. Then I'll go in between those two. Like so. And go in between those. And actually, I really like this old style of capstan screw if we're not talking about the end notes, because it's a little quicker than sticking the end of the tool in a hole sometimes. But you know, times change things. Now, if your samples appear, if it bothers you, if you're like, well, my samples aren't straight, well, you have to remember that this was in the piano and it might have been sitting slightly differently in the piano. And also the string heights aren't, like I said, they're not straight. Things kind of curve around a little bit. So just go with the samples, go in between them. You know, if you obviously got a sample that was off, you'll figure it out eventually, you know, but just trust the samples is what I'm saying. Trust the samples. Lifting up, lifting up. Go. Regulation is a whole lot of turning screws. So if you don't like to turn screws, get out now while you still can. See, no, one benefit of having two people, when your arm gets tired, you can switch and keep it going. You wanna try again, Timothy?
Okay.
Yeah, you wanna do some more or no?
Sure.
Okay. So let's swap you again here in a sec.
Okay.
So I just fixed the ones that ended up, they kinda ended up settling a little higher than I thought, you know? Okay, so it goes kind of like, a little bit, kinda goes up and down, but that's what the string pattern did. So we just keep it there, okay, so. To you. Oops. All right, we will. So like this hammer line starts to look really, really nice. And more importantly, the touch will feel really nice. Yeah, something's wrong with this key. It's sitting, something's underneath the back of this key because it's down a little bit. So I gotta get rid of that.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, what's up?
You have a second right now?
I'm working, yeah.
Gotcha. I was just gonna ask real quick if you happen to have any open positions you might be hiring for.
Oh, you know what, was anyone up front still?
At Danes, no.
Oh, okay, yeah, this is part of Dane's, so they'll take applications and stuff.
Gotcha.
But they're here, you wanna check, business hours, so pop in Monday between 10 and 6, or Monday through Friday, 10 and 6. Just drop one off to them up there, that door, that double door there. And, that'd be the way to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds great.
Alright, take care.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. While Timothy's doing that, I'm going to look behind that lowest key, this A0, and see if a wood chip or something got underneath here. And sure enough, a wood chip got underneath there. How did I know that was going to happen? A little bit of experience, maybe? Okay. So I'm going to sweep this wood chip out of here. That's from me drilling the pin block, and those things hide everywhere. It's impossible to clean them out very well. That can happen there. Oh, now all of a sudden, the key's up and the hammer's way down. So Timothy's gonna have to fix that. That was a big wood chip. So it was, yeah, if you ever see a key, you know, kind of like drifting low and the hammer's high, uncharacteristically, there's usually something underneath the back of the key. So. And actually, I can be smarter. While Timothy's doing that, I'm going to start putting punchings underneath each one of these keys. Because we already know, you know, I'm the one that put these parts on. So I better have made a pretty consistent dip. I'm pretty sure I did. So I'm pretty sure I can just stick 2 blue punchings under all these and everyone's going to be happy. And then maybe we'll add like another green or something. But we're just going to wholesale decrease the dip this way. So I'm just going to add 2 blue punchings, and I'm going to keep going along that way. I'm gonna do, the sharps, sometimes it can be a little different, because look, these black keys, they're a different sized lever, right? Here's the end of this, here's the end of this. These are only offset by, they're not perfectly the same lever. So the amount we would want to put under a black key might be a little different. Maybe not, but we'll start with the naturals or the white keys. Just put 2 blue punchings under all these while Timothy's doing the blow distance, and I'll get smart here and be more efficient instead of just standing around supervising. You like that idea?
Yeah.
And you can switch too, Timothy, but if you get tired of that one. And if you forget where you were, just push down the keys. You can see the difference in the depth here, just a little bit between where you put the blue and where you haven't. And this wholesale approach should work here because this is a really recently installed action parts, recently regulated. The dip has not changed a lot, if at all. All right, and if I'm smart, I'll put my punchings closer to where I'm working here for speed. I kind of look a little bit like an Egyptian mummy with my bandages on my finger here. I had a fall on someone's driveway the other day when the snow was coming down. Good thing the action wasn't in my hands when I slipped. I already had the action loaded in my car. And, but it kind of hurt, you know? It hurts when you fall. So, look at this. Here, we're decreasing the dip and decreasing the blow because you have to have, if things are regulated well and you change one of these, you've got to change the other one in a corresponding way. Otherwise, the piano won't operate quite as well typically. Why? Because you won't have enough aftertouch, or you'll have too much aftertouch. Timothy's arm's getting tired. I heard that sigh. We're going to swap as soon as I get up to middle C. Then I'll have to really work fast on those hammers if I'm going to beat him from middle C. Actually, let me have you put 2 under the blacks too. The black notes as well, okay? And that'll give me a head start. And if I want to change what we put under there, we can do it later, you know. We can change it a bit. Okay, middle C was our sample already, so we don't need to add anything there. So we're putting 2 blues. Putting 2 blues under each of the black notes. I've got, with my forceps, I'll show you all here. No, I'm not from Texas. I just said that for fun. I don't say y'all. I'm just pretending that I do to be cool. But see, one of those sides is sharpened, okay? You see that? That allows me to get under here and I put the sharpened side down. It allows me to slip right underneath there and grab that guy, okay? So Timothy, for the black notes, you're like, well, how do you do the black notes? Well, you're going to lift up 2 white notes. You slip in here, and you can get under here and pull the whole thing off, okay? And then you're going to stick 2 blues underneath the cloth. I don't care that the green's skinnier. I don't care. And then you're going to be careful to get all the pieces of that monstrous sandwich again. Line up the hole with the tool just to the right of it. Lift up the sharp, and then you can feel when that hole settles on the pin, and then push it down till the whole thing gets under there. And with any luck, Timothy's going to drop these like several times because it takes a little bit of, I don't know how much practice you've had doing that, maybe a lot, but Oh, before, and so anyway, I already did, just do the black notes, and then I'll keep doing the blow distance, okay? This is like team regulating. This is Olympic level, okay? You didn't change the sample, right?
No.
Because this is B, this is my sample, right here. So what's this one doing? You sure you didn't change my sample?
No.
Did you move this one?
No.
So what are these doing sticking up there? You think they were higher?
No. They just matched.
So our samples were B's and E's and the ends of sections. So we'll figure out what we're doing here.
Right.
I'll let Tinkley get to his job and I'll get to mine. We each have a job to do in this world. Did I mention, Timothy, that you have to you make your adjustment, you have to clear your tool off the capstan and then do your settling tap.
Okay.
Otherwise, the weight of the tool will give you a false reading.
Okay.
Oh, you know, there might be something else going on here. There is something else. The repetition lever height. If it's too high, then your hammer won't come to rest in the same place and you'll be fighting it. You go, what's going on? Just try tweaking your repetition lever just a little lower when that happens. Here. Okay. Nothing in the white notes, right?
Well, then black.
Okay.
And staying sharp.
Just to double check.
Staying sharp and not flat.
Staying alive.
Yep.
We should do like a flash mob piano regulating video.
Let's see how many people we can get on regulating the piano.
Yeah. And then we'll have them dancing on the pianos and the whole, I think it'll be good. We'll get some people who can do backflips off the pianos.
Mm-hmm.
I think Danny Osmond did that once. And they had to pay extra to rent the piano because it scratched the top of it off. Not off, it scratched the top. And I could have my facts way wrong, so don't quote me on that. It might not have been him at all.
I do know he has a Yamaha C7
Yeah, sure. They
that,
filmed one of the High School Musical movies near the shop here at the high school, local high school, and they rented some pianos. I remember to do like a scene on it, dancing,
mhm.
and they wanted people dancing on the piano. They were concerned about, the piano being scratched.
Mhm.
But then I thought there was another time, where it was going off and he was going to do a backflip off it, but I'm not sure. Alright, got the blow distance on these hammers going on. We're gonna get a different angle here, and I'm gonna keep putting punchings in the rest of the keyboard while Timothy's doing the black notes. Maybe I'll do it with my bare hands. We'll see. Okay. So we're putting in 2 blues under all these to start, and that should get us where we want to be. But find out. So I can do the whites with my bare hands, but not the sharps.
Impossible to do with the sharps by hand.
It's impossible for me. For other people, who knows? I've got a cow in my stomach. Just mood. You hear that? Must be getting close to dinner time. I've always thought that these regulation jobs were meant to be done with 2 people, so you don't get sick of it. It goes so much faster. There's some stuff you can do with 2 people. I just think it's fun and great. There's other stuff you just can't, right? At the same time.
Sometimes it's just as easier to just do it yourself.
Yeah, I tried to have 2 people tune the piano at the same time once. No, I'm just kidding. But I did. A friend of mine, there was a big sale for one of the music stores. We do it at the like an expo center kind of place, and they move all these pianos in there, and the sale would be the next day, and we were tuning through all of them in a short amount of time for the next day sale, so that they'd sound decent. And we would tune in the same exhibit hall, at the same time, and that was like, we thought we were really cool. It was a fun challenge. Yeah. So we learned that it's just best not to be, a half step away from each other in pitch class, and because that's where it's hard. But other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Was that for NAM or something?
No. This is for a local thing
Oh.
here. Yeah,
Okay.
for a piano store sale that they would have. A big exhibit hall. do an annual thing of that.
Yeah, okay.
Three more notes worth. Just to point out, we're changing how much the key changes goes down by 20 thousandths of an inch. That's not very much. But we're having to change the blow distance, you know, like 3 millimeters, way more. And that just illustrates how this, with this lever system, obviously the key is traveling a small amount and the hammer's traveling a much further distance. But that, I mean, that's not that exciting, except that when you consider what is the weight advantage, the acceleration advantage, and everything so on that makes this machine work to allow us to express on the piano with great high velocity, strike the strings and get a really loud sound out of it from natural materials. It's pretty darn cool. Someone leaked some greens into my blues, so I'll weed those out. While Timothy's getting further there. Alright. Can't believe weeds even grow in my punching bag. Man.
Okay, that'll get good and done.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty then. Timothy's halfway there. Alright, how about I take this, how about I wrap it up? An E flat? F sharp.
Mhm.
Oh, no, G flat. That's the oldest, worst joke in the musician's handbook, isn't it? It's not funny anymore, Hiram.
But in the F sharp is G flat.
Yeah, just saying, no, it's not that note, it's this note.
Huh? It works.
No, I don't think it's funny anymore.
Maybe because it came out a little flat.
Yeah, now we're really losing speed. Okay.
Maybe because I hit the F.
Alright, we're gonna set these closer, do these faster. You want to film some close-ups over here?
Right?
Of how we're getting in under these sharps. Maybe from the right side, you can see. lift two sharps, grab under there, pop that off. Stick our punchings under the cloth punching, more or less. Got it lined up to the right of the hole. Pop it, I can feel it on the hole, push it down, repeat. Okay, so this is going to affect how it feels when we play it mainly. It's going to feel more responsive, easy, less effort to play. It's going to feel like it's easier to play a piece without making mistakes. That's one of the things that regulation gives us. We make fewer mistakes because everything's consistent. Our brain can rely on a certain way of approaching each key, and so it doesn't take much adjustment. So we're just about there, huh? Tuck that sandwich in there. All right. One more. So we're not done with this. We still need to do a few things. We need to adjust where this hammer is going to escape. I'm pushing it up, pushing it up, pushing it up. I'm pushing the key still, but it drops down, right? How far it drops down, we've got to check that, make sure that's where we want it. We also have to raise that point of where it drops down, which we call let off or escapement. Got to raise it up a little closer to the strings, and that will give us a better tone and a better feel and control. All right. So let's just put this back in. Oh, we forgot to raise the note after fixing it. So I'm going to do that here real quick. This note that had the wood chip underneath it, we had lowered it, the hammer, because it looked like it was too high, and then we realized, oh, wood chip, pulled the wood chip out, and the hammer dropped, which we would expect, but, so now I got to put it back to match the others. All right, that's close. Let's see what we have here. Okey dokey. Stronger, the Jackson position, we still need to raise the let off to help us repeat faster, just to where it goes closer to the string. It'll also give a more meaty feel to the action because we'll be pushing the hammer just a little bit further for longer, and it'll give the tone a little more snap, a little more power by by bringing that let-off point up closer to the strings. When I put new parts on, typically I'll have that point a safe distance from the strings to start out a lot of times, just because weather changes and things can push it closer. But I'm kind of gravitating more towards, getting it closer. So we still have some work to do, but I'm gonna have to pick it up first thing Monday morning. So thanks for joining. We'll kill this, and we'll see you next time.